There is a terrifying paradox in Greek mythology. Sometimes, the person who is taken does not disappear. Sometimes, she returns in another form, more beautiful, colder, and far more powerful. Persephone begins her story as a girl picking flowers in a meadow, an image almost too pure to belong to a mythological world filled with blood, betrayal, and desire. But in a single moment, the earth cracks open beneath her feet. A black chariot rises from the depths, and the god of death drags her down into a kingdom without dawn. From that day on, Persephone is no longer merely the daughter of spring. She becomes the queen of the underworld, the woman who stands between the scent of flowers and the smell of ash, between her mother's grief and the silence of the dead. What makes Persephone so haunting is not only the question of how Hades abducted her. The more frightening question is this: what happens to a girl when she is thrown into darkness for too long? Does she remain the same when she returns? Or does that very darkness give her a kind of power that the light could never offer? In many ancient stories, the stolen woman is often only a victim, a prize, or the reason gods go to war. But Persephone rises beyond that role. She is not only the one who was taken, she becomes the one who learns to rule the very realm that swallowed her. And because of that, her story is not only a tragedy of loss, but also a myth of transformation. Before she became queen of the underworld, Persephone was called Kore, meaning the maiden. That name feels less like a complete identity and more like an unfinished state, as if she were still suspended between childhood and fate. She is the daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest, the one who makes wheat rise from the soil, the earth become fertile, and humanity survive the winter with bread in its hands. In the ancient Greek world, Demeter was not only a mother, she was the life of mankind. When she was joyful, the fields turned golden. When she suffered, the earth became barren. So Persephone was not simply a beloved daughter. She was the young green shoot of the world, the living image of spring, youth, and beauty, untouched by pain. But that very innocence makes her the center of a tragedy. In a radiant meadow, Persephone gathers flowers with other maidens. The scene sounds almost like a dream. Narcissus, violets, roses, fresh grass, sunlight, and a soft wind. But in Greek mythology, beauty is rarely innocent. Flowers are not just decoration. They can be signs of desire, destiny, or a trap hidden in broad daylight. One particular flower rises from the earth, so dazzling that Persephone bends down to pick it, and in that instant the ground opens. Hades appears, not as a monster, but as a king of darkness, pulling her down into a place where sunlight has no power. Hades does not live on Olympus. He does not join the bright feasts of the gods, nor does he display his power through thunder or the sea. He rules the place where every living thing must eventually go. The underworld of Hades is not simply hell in the modern sense. It is the kingdom of the dead, a vast and cold realm guarded by dark rivers, gates of no return, and the three-headed dog, Cerberus. Hades does not need to hunt life. Life comes to him by itself when it ends. So when he pulls Persephone beneath the earth, the act is both an abduction and a violent collision between two worlds. Light stolen from the surface, spring thrown into death, youth forced to sit beside the throne of darkness. Demeter is driven mad with grief. She wanders across the world, searching for her daughter. A goddess who once gave humanity grain now moves like a grieving mother, carrying a pain so immense that the whole earth must suffer with her. She neglects the harvest, Seeds no longer sprout, trees no longer bear fruit. Humanity begins to starve. Temples fall silent without offerings. The world begins to die, not because of war, not because of monsters, but because the heart of a mother has been torn apart. Here, mythology touches one of the oldest fears of civilization. What happens when the natural order is broken by the power of the gods? And even more painfully, in many versions, Zeus, Persephone's own father, is the one who allowed Hades to take her. That detail makes the tragedy far darker. Persephone is not only stolen by Hades, she is exchanged between powerful male gods, as if the fate of a girl could be decided in an agreement where she herself is not even present. For a modern audience, this is one of the most disturbing parts of the myth. It speaks of a world where women were often treated as bridges between families, kingdoms, and powers, rather than as human beings with their own voices. But if we read Persephone only as a victim, we miss the most dangerous part of her. Because the myth does not end at the moment she is dragged below. It continues in the dark. And darkness has a way of transforming those who remain inside it long enough. In the Underworld, Persephone faces a completely different reality. There is no bird song of spring, no fields of her mother, no maidens laughing among flowers. There are only pale souls, judgments after death, and rivers such as Styx and Lethe, where memory itself can be washed away. It is a place where human beings no longer have status, beauty, or wealth. Kings, slaves, warriors, traitors, lovers, children, all become shadows passing through the final gate. If Olympus is the place where gods display their power, the Underworld is where power becomes more absolute than anywhere else. No one escapes death. And when Persephone sits beside Hades, she does not simply become the wife of the god of death. She becomes the only woman who can look directly at the truth humanity fears most. What is strange is that in many ancient traditions, Persephone was not worshipped merely as a wounded girl. She was addressed with solemn and majestic titles. She was the Queen of Souls. She had authority over the dead. She appeared in secret rites concerning life after death. Sometimes her name was avoided, as if the ancients felt there was a power in her that should not be spoken to loudly in daylight. This is what makes Persephone so fascinating. She is a flower growing at the edge of a grave. She belongs to spring, and yet she belongs to the place where every spring must end. She does not erase death, but gives death a sacred face, cold, beautiful, and deeply unsettling. Then comes the pomegranate, one of the most famous and mysterious symbols in the myth. When the gods force Hades to return Persephone to Demeter, the story seems ready to heal. But before she leaves the Underworld, Persephone eats pomegranate seeds. Because she has tasted the food of the dead, she can no longer fully belong to the surface world. Part of her is bound to the Underworld. From then on, she must spend part of the year with her mother and part of the year with Hades. When she returns, spring and summer come. When she descends, Demeter grieves, and autumn and winter fall upon the world. The pomegranate is red like blood, full of seeds like fertility, yet marked by death. It is a trap, a vow, and proof that Persephone is no longer the girl she once was. This is the central tragedy of Persephone. She belongs to two worlds, but neither world can fully possess her. On the surface, she is spring returned, her mother's joy, the rebirth of life after hunger and cold. In the Underworld, she is queen, seated beside Hades on the black throne, a figure before whom the souls of the dead must bow. She is no longer simply light stolen by darkness. She becomes twilight, the place where light and shadow blend. The appeal of Persephone lies in exactly this duality. She is not a goddess of war like Athena, nor a goddess of love like Aphrodite, nor a goddess of marriage like Hera. She is a boundary, a doorway, a crack between life and death. For the ancient Greeks, this story explained the cycle of the seasons. When Persephone rose from the earth, seeds sprouted, trees blossomed, and the world came alive again. When she returned to the underworld, plants withered, fields rested, and the earth sank into the cold. But if we look deeper, this myth does not merely explain the weather. It explains how human beings endure loss. Winter is not absolute ending. It is waiting. Death is not only disappearance. It is part of the cycle that life must pass through in order to return. Persephone, therefore, is not merely the goddess of spring. She is the symbol of things buried but not truly dead, of seeds sleeping deep in darkness before breaking through the soil. That is why Persephone has such powerful cultural force. She tells humanity that darkness is not always where the story ends. Sometimes darkness is where a person is broken, then remade. In real life, human beings also have their own underworlds. Grief, depression, betrayal, separation, adulthood, and those stages of life when we are pulled away from everything familiar without being asked. We enter them like Kore, as a self that does not yet know how much it can endure. And if we survive, we emerge like Persephone, no longer untouched, but deeper. This is what makes her feel so modern. She does not represent a clean victory. She represents survival after harm, and the quiet power born from wounds no one else can see. Hades is also difficult to read. He is not a simple villain in the way many modern retellings portray him. In Greek mythology, Hades is cold, severe, and frightening. But he is not chaotic like Ares, not flamboyantly deceitful like Zeus, and not cruel in the sense of taking pleasure in pain. He is the king of the final place. What he does to Persephone is violent and possessive, but he himself also represents a reality no one wants to face. Death does not ask human beings for consent. It comes, opens the earth, and pulls us away from everything we know. That is why Persephone and Hades become such a complex pair of symbols. We should not romanticize her abduction, but we also cannot deny that when Persephone becomes queen, she does not merely stand in Hades' shadow. If Hades is the law of death, Persephone is the secret of death. She makes the underworld more than a cold prison. She makes it a kingdom with ritual, a throne, and solemn silence. She does not win through the sword. She does not break her chains through brute strength. She does not burn the world down for revenge. Her power is quieter, deeper. It comes from surviving in adversity, absorbing darkness and turning it into a crown. This is the kind of power that makes people both pity and fear her. Because someone who has passed through suffering is no longer as easy to control as before. A girl may be dragged down into the underworld, but a queen born from the underworld can no longer be defined by the one who dragged her there. There is a deeply cinematic image in Persephone's myth. She returns to the surface after long months below. Demeter receives her daughter, plants awaken, the earth softens, and warm wind moves across the fields. But if we look closely, the moment is not entirely joyful, because the one who returns is not the girl who disappeared. In Persephone's eyes, there is something pure spring could never possess. The memory of dead souls, black stone thrones, underground rivers, and silence beside Hades. Her return is therefore both resurrection and reminder that every rebirth carries traces of death. Like a human being after a great crisis, Persephone may return to the old place, but she can never return to being the old self. This is why Persephone speaks so strongly to the modern imagination. We live in an age fascinated by double identities, dark queens, and figures who exist between good and evil. From fantasy novels, films, role-playing games, and worlds of dark mythology, Persephone can be reborn again and again. She can be a cursed princess, a queen of the dead, a sorceress of spring, a deity of the life and death cycle, or a feminist symbol of reclaiming power after it has been taken away. But her true appeal is not merely in her dark beauty. It lies in a deeper question. Can a person turn the place that once imprisoned them into their throne? Persephone answers through her very existence. Persephone also touches the complicated relationship between mother and daughter. Demeter loves her child so fiercely that the whole world freezes when Persephone disappears. That love is sacred, but it also has a frightening side. Because in Demeter's eyes, Persephone is always Kore, always the little girl of spring. But after the Underworld, Persephone can no longer be only a protected daughter. She has learned what her mother never wanted her to know. She has encountered death, power, desire, loneliness, and responsibility. The tragedy is not only that a mother loses her daughter. The tragedy is also that a mother must accept that her daughter has become someone else. That is one of the most painful truths of growing up. Love cannot keep anyone forever inside the old garden. This makes the story far more than a myth about the seasons. It becomes a story about painful adulthood. Every child must one day leave the garden of the mother. Not always gently. Sometimes the world opens like a wound. Sometimes growing up arrives like an abduction by fate. And when we return, we no longer know how to live completely inside the old home. Persephone lives precisely inside that tear. She loves her mother, but she cannot remain forever. She rules the underworld, but she does not fully belong to darkness. She brings spring, but her spring always carries the smell of grave soil. This contradiction is what prevents her from ever becoming a simple symbol. In the mysterious rites connected to Demeter and Persephone, their story was seen as a sacred secret about life, death, and hope beyond death. The ancients did not treat it merely as a beautiful tale to tell beside a fire. They saw in it a doorway to the greatest question of human existence. After death, is there anything waiting? Persephone, the one who went down and came back, became a symbol of that hope. Not a naive hope that death does not exist, but a deeper hope that darkness may be part of a larger cycle. That beneath the ground there are not only white bones, but seeds. That the things buried away may be preparing for another birth. The seed is the key to the entire story. When we look at a winter field, we see empty ground, dry trees, death. But underneath, the seed is waiting. It is buried like a corpse, yet that burial is the very condition for its return to life. Persephone is the same. She is taken beneath the earth as a loss, but symbolically, she becomes the divine seed. When she is below, life withdraws into silence. When she rises, the world blooms. And yet mythology is not so naive as to say that all suffering is beautiful. Persephone does not romanticize being taken. Her story still carries a wound that cannot be erased. And it is precisely that wound that makes her feel more real than any clean symbol of victory. In modern culture, when people recreate Persephone, they are often drawn to the visual contrast. White dress and black throne, spring flowers and skulls, bright skin under underworld candlelight, a golden crown among grey souls. But if we stop at the image, we miss her soul. Persephone is not memorable because she is beautiful in darkness. She is memorable because she gives darkness meaning. She is not only the lover of Hades, she is the answer to an ancient question. After the world wounds us, who can we still become? And perhaps the most frightening answer is this: we may become more powerful than the innocent version of ourselves ever was. Persephone makes us both pity her and fear her, because she refuses to be defined in only one way. She is the stolen girl. She is the daughter mourned by her mother. She is spring returned. She is the queen of the underworld. She is a victim of power.
She is also a holder of power.
She is life, but she has tasted death. She is death, but she carries the promise of life. In her, opposites do not cancel each other out. They coexist, as they do inside human beings, fragile and cruel, afraid of darkness and yet fascinated by it, longing to be protected and longing to be free. Perhaps that is why Persephone never grows old. Every age sees its own wound reflected in her. If Hades represents the inevitable, and Demeter represents the love that refuses to let go, then Persephone is the part of us pulled between those two forces. On one side is the warm past, where we are still called by our old name. On the other is the cold world, where we must learn to name ourselves. No one grows up without losing something. No one steps into power while remaining completely innocent. And no one returns from the underworld without carrying a little darkness in their eyes. Persephone is not merely the goddess of spring or the queen of the dead. She is the myth of the price of transformation. She shows us that sometimes what is stolen from us will never be returned unchanged.
At the end of the story, we no longer see Persephone as a girl weeping in a field of flowers. We see her on the throne of the underworld, silent, beautiful, unreadable, with the scent of spring still somewhere on her cloak, and eternal darkness beneath her feet. She no longer belongs completely to the light, but she has not been swallowed by darkness either. She has become something both worlds must acknowledge. And perhaps that is why Persephone remains alive in our imagination after thousands of years. Deep down, humanity is not only afraid of being pulled into darkness, we are also afraid of another truth: that in that darkness, we may discover a version of ourselves we never dared to face in daylight. Persephone is the whisper that spring is not innocent. It has gone through hell in order to return. Every flower that blooms on the surface is not merely a sign of life, but proof that something once buried can rise again. Yet when it returns, it is not the same. It carries the memory of darkness, the weight of loss, and the beauty of something that survived. So if we listen long enough, we may hear more than birdsong and the scent of young grass in the spring wind. Somewhere, deep below, there may still be the echo of a queen walking through the black stone corridors of the underworld, waiting for the day the world needs her to return.